Authoritarian movements always promise a return to greatness, a lost golden age, a simpler time, a more powerful nation. But here's the thing about golden ages. They're usually gilded, and they're rarely golden for the middle class. This week, the Supreme Court ruled that sweeping executive tariffs exceeded constitutional authority. And that ruling didn't just block a trade policy, it forced a confrontation between nostalgia and structural reality. Because tariffs weren't just about trade, they were sold as the foundation of a coming American revival. Other countries would pay us, debt would shrink, factories would return, America would boom again. There was just one problem: the Constitution. For months, I said this would happen, not because I'm psychic, but because I can read Article 1. Tariffs are a congressional power, not a presidential one. Congress regulates trade. Yes, authority can be delegated in limited cases, but delegation is not monarchy. When tariffs are announced like threats, when industries are taxed overnight, when trade policy becomes improvisation, that's not legislation. That's executive expansion. And the Supreme Court didn't shock the system. It reminded everyone of something fundamental. The United States is not a CEO state. Presidents don't get unilateral pricing power over the global economy. This wasn't about popularity. It was about structure. And now the structure has reasserted itself.
Let's address the biggest myth. We're making other countries pay. No, that's not how tariffs work. A tariff is a tax on imports. The importer, an American company, pays the tariff to U.S. Customs, not China, not Mexico, not Europe. If a $100 product has a 25% tariff, the importer pays $25 to the U.S. government. Then one of three things happens. They raise prices, they absorb losses, or they split the cost. But the money? It goes to the U.S. Treasury. So here's the simple question. If foreign countries were paying, why did the U.S. government collect the revenue? Tariffs are taxes, and like most taxes, they ripple through the domestic economy. Higher prices, supply chain distortions, retaliation. Calling it foreign tribute doesn't change the math. And when economic policy is built on misunderstood math, reality eventually shows up.
Now here's where it gets bigger. Tariffs weren't just policy. They were part of a promise, a coming golden age. We were told tariffs would pay down debt. Tariffs would replace income taxes. Tariffs might even fund rebate checks. America would boom again. But let's do basic math. Even a massive universal tariff would bring in hundreds of billions. The annual deficit? Over $1 trillion. National debt? Over $30 trillion. Even in the best-case scenario, tariffs don't erase structural deficits. And now that executive authority has been restricted, the entire tariff-funded renaissance becomes politically harder. And here's the deeper question. If tariffs were funding the golden age, what happens when that tool is removed? Was the golden age structural or rhetorical? When politicians talk about a return to greatness, they rarely define the era. Sometimes it sounds like the late 1800s. High tariffs, industrial expansion, no income tax. But that period wasn't a middle-class paradise. It was the Gilded Age. Railroad barons, oil magnates, extreme wealth concentration, weak labor protections, child labor, violent strike suppression. It was extraordinary if you were in the top 1%. The broad middle class didn't solidify until decades later, during heavy regulation, strong unions, high marginal tax rates, and post-war industrial dominance. That's a different model. So when we talk about restoring a golden age, we should ask, golden for who? Nostalgia simplifies history, but economics never does. And here's the part no one wants to talk about. Even if tariffs brought factories back, who's working in them? AI is automating white-collar work. Robotics are automating manufacturing. Logistics is being optimized by algorithms. Self-driving threatens trucking. If the promise is protecting American workers, how does rapid AI displacement fit into that vision? Because AI disproportionately benefits capital owners, platform owners, data monopolies, large tech firms. That's historically what technological revolutions do, unless policy counterbalances them. So here's the real question. Are we building a middle-class revival or a technologically enhanced Gilded Age? The Supreme Court didn't just strike down tariffs. It exposed a tension between nostalgia and structural reality. The future isn't 1890, it's automation, and no tariff can stop that.